Hey there, good morning and welcome to the JeepSolid garage. Today we're going to be replacing the distributor on my 1992 Jeep Wrangler YJ. And the reason I'm replacing the distributor is I'm having an issue with this engine. It runs just great, but then I get a hesitation where it just dies for a minute and then dies for a minute. I've gone through a lot of different things diagnosing this. I know some of you that follow my channel, you're gonna ask, you haven't figured that out yet? I haven't. I've got a lot of other projects, a lot of other things going on. Fortunately, this is a project vehicle that if it sits for a month or two, no big deal. I have done a lot of things to try to diagnose this hesitation. I'll start it up here and show you that hesitation in the RPMs in just a second. Let me go through some of the things that I've done to try to diagnose it so far. Right there, boom, boom. So that's the hesitation I'm getting. Runs just great, and then I lose RPMs and it just dies so quickly. So let me take you through some of the things I've gone through to diagnose that hesitation and how I have finally settled on replacing the distributor. Will the saga continue after I replace the distributor? I don't know, we'll see. So far, the things I have tried to remedy this hesitation in the engine. Number one, I replaced the crankshaft position sensor, which certainly could cause this type of hesitation. With a bad sensor, thinking the crankshaft was misaligned or something, you could definitely get a hesitation like that. After I replaced the crankshaft position sensor, I was getting the exact same symptoms, didn't change anything at all, so I know that is not the problem. So then I moved on to a fuel supply issue, wondering if, hey, are we just not getting gas to the engine for some reason? I didn't really think that was the issue because it wasn't, the way it hesitates is so quick and abrupt. It's not like it seemed like it was starving for gas. But I did check the fuel pressure anyways. My fuel pressure was good and also the flow. I checked both of those, checked out just fine, and this has new injectors on it, and it was doing the same thing with the old injectors and the new injectors. So fuel supply issue, check, kind of checked it off the list. Don't think that's the issue. Now, of course, I've also checked spark. I checked spark to all the plugs, wires. I seem to be getting good spark everywhere, and you can tell the engine runs great for a bit and then it hesitates. So obviously the spark plugs and wires are working, but something is cutting out real quick. All the spark plugs are good, they all fire, don't see any issue there. So now I'm on to more sensors, which to me it seems like a sensor issue, just how quickly it cuts out. So I'm on to the distributor sensor. So here's the little sensor that is for the distributor. Sometimes this is called a camshaft position sensor. To me it seems like a sensor issue because of how abruptly it cuts out. I could have replaced just this sensor, but to do that it was like $40 just for that one sensor, where I could get the complete distributor for like $30 more. And the rotor and all that assembly inside of there, it's a little bit corroded, not terrible, but enough that I thought, hey, I'll just replace the entire system. So that's what we're gonna do, replace the distributor, rotor, cap, all that, new sensor. So hopefully that does it. If not, we'll move on to something else. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna find top dead center just to get our rotor on our distributor lined up exactly where we want it. I think you can take the distributor out and put the new one in as long as you get the rotor in the exact same spot, but I've heard of too many people having issues with getting it lined up well. So this episode right now, I'm actually live streaming as well. Every once in a while I pop on and do live streams, so the audio might sound a little bit different because I have to use a different mic for this camera because I'm live streaming right now. There's the live stream setup right now. If you can, every once in a while I like to pop on and do a live stream. It's just kind of fun to chat and hang out. So the first thing I'm gonna do, I'm actually gonna go through and label all of my spark plug wires. I wanna just kind of get these out of the way. I'm gonna leave them attached to the distributor right now, but I'm gonna label these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, just to keep them all in the right order. I've got all the spark plug wires labeled. Now we're gonna pull them off here. And this will give us easier access to everything. So now to find top dead center, the rotor is going to be pointed kind of down here about the 5:30 position. Right now it's up there like 10:30 or so. We're going to remove spark plug number 1 I might remove number 2 as well, just to make it easier to turn over. Then right down on the crankshaft, there is a 3/4 inch bolt. We'll get a socket on that and then turn it clockwise. And we're going to put a little, you'll see me, we're going to put a little dowel down this hole, and we're going to feel the piston coming up. But also I'm going to feel, because we want it top dead center on compression. So there's a compression stroke and an exhaust stroke. We want it top dead center on the compression stroke, so I'm going to wait until I'm turning it when I can feel air coming out. That's my compression stroke. And earlier when I was talking about this one is a little, it's not terrible. I mean, there's a little corrosion on it, not bad, but here's that sensor that I was talking about that we had to replace. There's a little bit of gunk down in there. So for the inexpensive cost of just getting a whole new distributor, it was worth it to me. Now I took spark plug number 1 and spark plug number 2 out. They're right up there. This is a, I don't know, it's a little Easter egg decoration, but I use it to find top dead center because I've used it a few times. It's got a nice little dowel on it. So obviously this piston right now is way down. You have to take your Jeep out of gear. I've made that mistake. So then right down on the vibration damper, the 3/4 inch nut or bolt. I'm gonna get my wrench on there and start turning it. Make sure your Jeep's out of gear, like I said, because otherwise your Jeep's gonna try to creep forward if you're super strong. And then we're gonna turn it just like so. And as we're turning it, I'm gonna be feeling, because I want to get the compression stroke. So I'm gonna kind of feel right here. I'm gonna plug the hole with my finger, and I'll feel it actually trying to push air out. And when I feel it, I know that's the compression stroke. So I actually think I got kind of lucky here. I think I'm on compression stroke already. So I'm taking my finger, plugging that hole. Maybe not. So as I'm turning that, I'm plugging that hole, and yeah, I'm starting to get some compression now. It's pushing air out, so I know I'm on compression stroke. I'm getting close to the 5:30 mark here, so I'm gonna actually go over and look at my timing mark. So then over on the driver's side, I'm looking down here, and you can see those timing marks right down there. So I actually have a little white mark on the vibration damper there. When that gets around to the 0, that should be about top dead center, but I'm also gonna be feeling with my little Easter egg dowel, just tapping the top of the piston so I know when the piston is coming up and stops. Let me see how close I am to the top dead center mark. So now with it at top dead center, my rotor is about down at 5:30 or so. It's a good idea. I really recommend take a picture of yours before you take it out so that you can reference, if you need to, you can look back and see exactly where your rotor was. Because yeah, you don't want to get your timing off. If you do, it's not the end of the world. You might just have to back it off 1 tooth. That's how you can adjust the timing on it. So let's disconnect our little sensor here, and then down underneath there is one little bolt that holds the distributor in. You dropped it. You'll notice when I'm lifting this up, let me see if I can get it back down in there. As I'm lifting it up, notice the rotor spins. It's because the gear on it here, there's a helical gear. So as you're putting it in, it twists. So getting it lined up, you have to actually have it kind of backed off a little ways. And then the flat part right down here, that's what goes down into your oil pump. So now when I put my new distributor in, we're gonna have this little hold down bracket lined up with where the mounting hole is. We're gonna try to get this flat blade into the oil pump. And remember, the rotor was down here at like 5:30, but I'm gonna back it off a little bit because of those helical gears. So that, and if it doesn't seat down all the way right there, I know it's not engaging the oil pump. So I think I'm off just a little bit. So let's move it forward just a smidge. Same issue. Just trying to find the magic little spot where it, so I got it seated down in there, and you can see the rotor is pointed off at like the 6:30 position. So that's off. I'm off by a tooth, definitely. It is seated down all the way, so I'm gonna lift it up, back it off, and redo it. So my new distributor isn't like sliding down just perfectly. So what I'm doing is lining up the rotors on my new distributor and old distributor just to have everything perfectly straight, keep everything lined up just right. And then I'm noticing now when I do that, the little flat blade on the bottom that turns the oil pump, these are offset of each other just a little bit. It doesn't take much because that slot for the oil pump is just a little slot that it has to fit right down into. Let me show you how to turn that so we can get the new one in. So down in the hole of the distributor, at the very bottom, you can see that flat, where a flat blade screwdriver would fit in. So we can just take a flat blade screwdriver, stick it down in there, and that'll twist pretty easily just wherever you need it. You might have to adjust it a few times to get it right in the right spot. So I actually kind of lucked out. I took my screwdriver, backed that oil pump slot off just a little bit, and then on about my third try of pulling it out and in, I've got my bracket, my mounting point lined up. It's at about the 530 spot where I was before, so I think I'm pretty happy with that. I'm going to bolt it up, put everything back together, and if it runs rough, I think if my timing is off, I might have to redo this part, pull it back out, back it off a tooth so my rotor is pointed but a little differently. But that's about where you want it when you're at top dead center. That's why we found top dead center. You want it about the 530 position. So now I've got it bolted back in, my sensor hooked back up. So now I can swap my wires over to my new rotor or new distributor cap. And on this YJ, the bottom of the distributor cap, one side is kind of square, one side is kind of rounded. So that's how I'm keeping my orientation. So I know how they're supposed to be. So I'm going to swap them over one at a time. This is number 2. All right, got everything back in place. Distributor mount bolt is tight. The cap is on. All the wires are back in place. The spark plugs are back in. Got all my spark plug wires. That's where labeling them really comes in handy. And I should have mentioned earlier, before you take your spark plugs out, which I had done previously on this engine, take a little compressed air, shoot a little compressed air in there just to clean out the spark plug recesses, because you don't want debris falling down in your engine. Now I pulled my flashlight out that I had over there. I think everything is clear from the engine compartment. So what do you say we fire it up and see if this helped resolve our issue, please? All right, let's fire it up. So as soon as I started that the first time, I think my timing is off a little bit. It wasn't running the same. I could tell it was a little rough. So I'm gonna take it back apart, back the distributor off just one tooth, try it again, and then hopefully we're there. All right, back to the distributor off one tooth. Let's give it another shot. No, it was running really good earlier. So yeah, it's still not lined up. Darn it, I was hoping we'd have this epic, like, yay, we got it, it runs. But I'm gonna have to fiddle with the distributor again. What I'll probably do, I'll probably run it back around using my little dowel to find top dead center on cylinder number 1 again. I'll turn the crank like we did earlier until I get top dead center on cylinder number 1, pull the distributor, reinstall it, lining it up at that about 5 o'clock mark, just to see where I'm at now. It could be clear back at like 3 o'clock. Maybe start backing it off a tooth. Maybe I needed to advance it a tooth. I'm hungry, you guys. I need to go in and find something to eat. I'm gonna get back to this tomorrow. I'm done for the evening. Hey, super good news. After fiddling with the distributor, moving it forward and back one tooth, trying to get the timing just right, check this out. And even better than that, check this out. That hesitation I was getting around 2,500 RPMs or so. It is just smooth as butter. So I am just super excited about that. I have been chasing down that hesitation it's been a few months. Project vehicle, don't drive it very much, but I've been chasing that for a long time. It turned out not to be the crankshaft position sensor. It was not a fuel supply issue or fuel flow. It wasn't spark plugs, distributor cap, firing, fuel injectors, any of that. It turned out to be the cam sensor. The sensor on the distributor cap runs like butter now. Thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate your support. Check out my next video right up here. Have a good day. Let's try a one-shot hat toss because things are going well. Oh, I hit it.